see. Okay. So, hello, Rhonda. So you write, is ignorance an object to be gotten rid of? Well, let's look at what when I say, or when we speak of ignorance, what we are referring to. So ignorance refers to the belief that I, meaning I consciousness, am limited to a body-mind or dependent on a body-mind, or I exist because of the body-mind, which leads to a feeling that I, as consciousness, am a body, I'm a mortal body-mind. So ignorance refers to the ignorance of our true nature, the ignorance of what we truly are. So it's a mind, it's a mind belief. It's a belief that is not based on reality. It's not based on your experience. It is based on your thought, on your inherited thought, a belief that you've inherited and that you have not questioned. So the path, the teaching, invites you to question, to contemplate whether this belief is based on any truth. And when you do the correct contemplation of the belief that consciousness is personal, you will come to a place where you don't have any evidence for that belief. You don't know. You come to a not knowing. And this not knowing place that you arrive to in your contemplation is a sort of openness. It opens you to the possibility that this entire structure can collapse, and you may find the revelation of the self available to you. So I wouldn't say that ignorance is an object to be gotten rid of, but I would say that it is a topic of contemplation. Because when you are looking at something to get rid of, it sort of fortifies, or it builds the person, that the me is enhanced in this idea that I need to get rid of something, as if there is something wrong with me. It becomes sort of like a personal problem, a personal task, a personal endeavor, and it fortifies the person. So trying to get rid of ignorance is ignorant. It feeds into the ignorance. So rather than trying to get rid of ignorance, you question, you ponder your beliefs. So that's how I would approach your question about getting rid of ignorance. When you are at peace, you are really not trying to get rid of anything. Okay, hello, Marianne. You posed a question. Let me see if it's possible for me to. Let me see. Let me close this here. Go here. Okay. Let me open that. Okay. So let me see. Let me do that. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this was a question that Marianne just asked. I posted, by the way, Marianne, I posted your question on in the message part, messenger part, or the chat part of the Hangout. So Marianne, you're right. Within the dream, the diminishing of my own ego helps me more in awareness. I guess it helps me to be more in awareness. I don't mind getting rid of the attachment to my own ego, but I have a hard time not loving the egos of my children. Is there a contradiction here there? Within the dream, the diminishing of my own ego helps me to be more in awareness. I don't mind getting rid of the attachment to my own ego, but I have a hard time not loving the egos of my children. Yes, there is a contradiction there. Because as the me impression weakens and dissolves, you find yourself more and more in peace. You will find yourself less and less segmented. And when you're at peace, you're perceiving from a place that is undisturbed. So if you're perceiving within your children some tendencies, the me tendencies, the arguing, the defending, the blaming, the accusing, the regretting, all the thoughts and the emotions of the identified person. It's important that you understand that this is an important part of their path. It's not a mistake. They're not doing anything to you. You don't have to save them because they are in bigger hands than yours. They're in the hands of consciousness. It is all consciousness's dream. So when people are going through, even your loved ones, are going through certain angst, certain identifications, and you perceive that, you, rather than perceiving it as a problem, you can perceive it as just what they need to go through right now. Also, you can be available to them, not to save them or correct them or bring them to higher wisdom. No, you're available to them out of love. You love them. And when you love them, you don't love them with your conditions. You don't love them because they are non-dual. You just love them because you are the love and it's all love. And you're not perceiving a problem that you need to fix. So that's how you can be helpful to them, by loving them. And loving is presence, is a non-judgmental place of rest, openness, and openness of being. And there is an availability. They will sense that. When it's time for them to sense that in an appropriate way, they will sense that subliminally or none. and they may reach out for you. Or even if they may not reach out for you, something will touch their heart at a deeper place. You may not perceive it, and you don't need to perceive it. You may not understand the effect that you have on your children, but you will have an effect on them when you are in this non-judgmental, loving place. So it's not, you say you have a hard time not loving the egos of your children. You don't need to love their egos. You love their true nature. You love their essence. You follow? It's not their egos that you love. You love the light that shines within them, the light of awareness that shines as them. There are crows flying by here. It's very beautiful. So any questions?
I just posted one.
Oh, yes, yes. Hello, Ananda.
Hello, good day.
Yes, beautiful day. So Ananda, you write, I'm wondering what is the feeling corresponding to saying, I'm glad to see you, from the perspective of being firmly established in non-dual understanding. Well, just what is the feeling? The feeling is the feeling of happiness, of just beauty, peace. Like right now, I'm glad to see you. And it's just beautiful. It's very lovely. I recognize you as myself, as the peace, as the wholeness of being. So it's quite simple, really.
I guess. I guess the last question kind of bears on that. It's like, now say, if you as undifferentiated consciousness, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
As undifferentiated consciousness or non-dual awareness, you love everything that appears. This thing about loving the egos of one's children. I don't have children, but of course, there's people who are close to me, so I can relate to it. But it almost seems like you have to love the ego of the children to have a special relationship, that you're a family, for example.
Mm.
Could you a little quieter? Krishna?
Yeah. Well, first, non-dual awareness doesn't necessarily mean that you love everything.
Oh, right. Right.
There are quite a few behaviors, thoughts, expressions that are not very sweet. They're not attractive. They're not gentle. They're not loving.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about loving everything. Now, in terms of egos of your children, egos, there are really no such thing as an ego.
Mm-hmm.
There is a behavior that you perceive. You know, somebody gets upset and throws a tantrum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And you may tell them, "Oh, watch your ego. You get control of your ego." I don't know what that means, but they're throwing a tantrum. Something is has triggered them, and they perceive a certain threat or a certain disappointment, and a certain anxiety, maybe fear, and their reaction is to act out. Yes. So there's something that has scared them, for example. Now, in your contemplation, at some point you come to an understanding that as long as we perceive ourselves to be a person, we are going to be subject. It's just a matter of time. We're going to be subject to certain conditions that are going to affect the body, and because we're identified with the body, they're going to affect the me, the I. So when I, as consciousness, is identified with the body, whatever happens to the body seems to happen to the self. And that's the confusion that we have, and this is why we have the roller coaster of emotions, is because we are identified with a form that is subject to conditions. When the body is an energetic field that interacts with other energetic fields, and so there are currents that meet each other, and they create tourbillon. How do you say? They create some whirlpools, tornadoes, etc. And so there is an understanding that when we're identified with the body, then we perceive a personal threat. That something is happening to the self. While in fact, from a higher understanding, in your contemplation, you may realize that consciousness that perceives this perception is not subject to the perception. The perception or the event is subject to it, but I am not subject to any mind events. So I may perceive something that I do not like, and I just do my best to move away from it, not to entertain it. If I have no choice, I'm stuck there, okay, well, I'll just watch it, knowing that it will pass. So in terms of loving your children, you don't love the mind, meaning you don't love the identification with the body-mind that triggers the emotion. You understand that this identification is misplaced, that consciousness is not a form. Consciousness is the formless reality, the formless beingness, the formless self. You understand that, and that is the love, because loving an object is not possible. You can you can't bottle the love into an object. Love nothing can contain it. It's uncontained. Love is uncontained. So loving an object doesn't make sense. It's not really love. It's something you want. Something there is a thought. There is a thought and a feeling relationship that we're mistaking for love when it comes to loving an object. So loving your children is a way of speaking. In fact, we don't love our children. We love consciousness, and the consciousness that manifests as our children, that manifests as the truck driver, as the bus driver, that manifests as all forms. That's love.
I see that. Yes. Otherwise, there's always a discomfort with the idea I'm in a situation, and it's incumbent on me to love or be loving or something. And
Yes.
but if it's still in an object relationship, it's got a built-in tension because there's no the freedom is missing.
Yes, yes, yes. First of all, it's important to contemplate that you are never in any situation.
Mm-hmm.
Certain situations may appear and disappear within you, meaning within awareness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you are never in a situation.
Oh, yeah, that's good. That's good.
So your freedom is never compromised by whatever appears or disappears.
Mm-hmm.
Because your freedom is not dependent on what appears. It's not dependent on a situation. So you may, as a situation appears to you, behave in any way you wish. And of course, because you realize that you are the wholeness of being, and you realize the sweetness of that, you behave out of love and out of that sweetness, out of that wholeness, not out of a sense of lack. When you are identified, you behave out of a sense of lack. There is something that's bothering you. You want to fix it. Maybe my children are bothering me. I want to fix them. Their egos is bothering me. I want to fix them. You've identified yourself at that moment as some body, some form that is relating to other forms. And already you are in a sense of incompleteness. You already have moved into your limitation, and therefore have projected your limitation onto others. And now you are in relationship of limited mentation with another limited mentation that you have projected. You see what I mean?
Yeah, and something occurred to me while you were talking, which is that I'll just run this by you. Whatever the situation that's appearing, that includes, a subject, a parent, subject, object, situation, the whole thing. In a way, in a simple way, it's almost like one object, which is okay because it's an arising object. It's like the whole, you know what I mean? Planet Earth, me, the whole thing that's arising at any moment, compared to consciousness in relationship to consciousness pure is just okay. It's an arising. Well, it's a complex arising, but it's all really as simple as I don't reject or grasp an object, and I don't reject or grasp this.
Yeah, consciousness doesn't reject or grasp. So whenever there is a rejecting or a grasping, there already has been some identification. Yeah. So
right.
So there is a person that is rejecting or holding on to. Now, whatever appears, like for example, right now, this appearance is appearing. When you contemplate, what is this appearance? What is its reality? You come to awareness, don't you?
Yes. Yes, more and more. That's the immediate response.
Yes. So
you contemplated, so to speak.
Right. So right now we're perceiving this perception.
Right.
And when you look at this perception, where are you looking? What are you looking at?
Really, I'm looking at my own manifestation, so to speak.
Yes. Yes. You're looking at your own mind. Where is it? Where is it? Where is your perception? It's not a part of you, apart from you.
And I'm not really located, so it's not really anywhere.
Right. You're not right. So when we speak about an appearance, what are we speaking about?
Mm. Mhm. Play of, so to speak, play of consciousness. Mm-hmm.
You see, we never really leave our non-dual self, our non-dual nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's not possible. It's not possible to experience anything outside yourself. Ask yourself, have I ever experienced anything outside myself?
Mm. Just a second. Krishna, if you use plastic utensils, it won't make so much noise. I have a house guest who is actually
you have to provide
appearing within my...
You have to provide the plastic utensils.
They're there. They're there easily to be found.
But
it's
so you experience the sound of the utensils. What are you experiencing? Where is this experience?
exactly.
Where is the sound? Where are the utensils?
Mm-hmm.
Where is Krishna?
Mm-hmm.
See,
this is...
you never experience anything outside of yourself. There's only the experience of the self experiencing itself.
Mm-hmm.
There is no Krishna. There is no Megdi. There's no Ananda. It's just the self, just consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we take on all sorts of names and forms.
Mm-hmm.
This is mentation. So you are Ananda, I am Megdi, he is Krishna, etc. But these are just play. This is play. We are contemplating. We know the play. We know when I say hello, Ananda. That's not a problem.
Right.
But we are contemplating the sense of angst that we experience in life, this unhappiness we experience in life. Why? Who is experiencing unhappiness, and what is this unhappiness process?
Mm-hmm.
Always unhappiness refers to something I'm lacking or something I'm seeking.
Mm-hmm.
A resistance or a pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
Why is there a resistance and a pursuit? So that's the question.
Mm-hmm.
And the Advaitic teaching refers to this identification with a form. I'm a man or a woman, a person. Being identified as a person is the root cause of angst, of a sense of lack, of a sense of limitation, anger, jealousy, coveting, desiring, anxiety, being annoyed. But that is not our experience. That's our dream. Our experience is consciousness.
Yeah.
Everything we experience via consciousness.
Right.
And
so all those states are add-ons. I like the term you use sometimes, add-ons.
Yes. The biggest add-on is the tragic add-on is the belief that consciousness depends on something we refer to as a body-mind. Body-mind is a mentation. If you examine the body-mind, you will only find thoughts and perceptions. And when you examine thoughts and perceptions, you only find consciousness. Yes?
That's great. Yeah. I like that. So body-mind is not a thing to get away from. It's really just a an arising mentation.
Mentation. It's mentation and sensation. But when you examine mentation and sensation, you only find yourself. You only find consciousness. You don't find a body or a mind. You only find consciousness. Consciousness is a formless reality that its very substance is peace, joy, freedom, and happiness. Not dependent on anything.
Yes, when I contemplate this, I've been sitting on a regular basis. I call it, sitting. I could call it meditation or contemplation.
Sitting, yes.
It's really a kind of a combination of those. But what I noticed earlier today, in fact, was that I have a kind of an assumption that I'll get more clear, by coming back to the source rather than the mental world and effects that has me as an effect of something else. That then things will work out better and whatever. But I notice that it's still in a time context. It's like, and I think about all the things I have to do. I need to call my parents. They've been, they want me to call every week, which is fine, but time has gone by. It's been, I don't know how long. Things like that are sort of piled up. And so I thought, well, why not just be completely formless, consciousness during this meditation, and then just let things unfold as they will, which means I'll call them and etc.
Yes, and that's how you come to the source. Because the source is where everything flows from the source.
Right.
The source does not flow. Everything flows from the source. The source is there. Just being. And world, body, mind flow from the source. You could say that. Yes? But
yes.
But the source is not something that moves. Right? So when you want to go to the source, then there is something that moves, that wants to go to something that does not move. Yes?
I think so.
Yes, because to go to the source, there has to be some movement.
Oh, you're saying going to the source is still
a movement,
a process. It's really it's a recognizing source as what is.
Right. Recognizing the source is a form of resting.
Yes.
And
yes.
It's not possible to rest as long as you are scared of the lion, or scared of tomorrow, or scared of your partner, or scared that your partner may leave you, or scared, whatever, concerned about your future.
Right.
You cannot rest as the source.
Right.
When you are identified with as being somebody.
Right.
The resting as the source is the recognition that the movements of the mind do not define you.
Yes, yes.
That the thoughts that says, this person needs to blah, 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 I have not gotten enlightened yet, and so on. These thoughts do not define you. They do not speak of you. They do not know you. They do not. What moves does not know the motionless, the unmoved.
Yes, right.
Because we do get affected by our thoughts.
Right.
We get scared by our thoughts. Like we may think, for example, that tomorrow I'm going to have no money.
Mm.
That thought may arise.
Mm-hmm.
And then we will feel scared.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
A thought may arise of somebody you know who's living on a beautiful island, Shangri-La, blah, blah. It's a
I have
thought.
that. Or they're living in California.
Right. That thought arises to you, but it's not innocent. Then you're going to feel, it's going to affect your emotions.
Yes.
Why? Because you are still identified as a person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, how to be free of this identification?
Mm-hmm.
To realize that the images on the screen, they don't affect the screen.
Mm-hmm.
When there is a fire on the screen, these images, a movie, a running fire or running a beautiful ocean, the screen is not burnt or is not wet. The
Yes.
clouds that arise in the sky is not affected.
Mm-hmm.
The dreams that arise, your night dreams, you are not affected.
Mm-hmm.
You may go to Hawaii, you may swim, all sorts of things may happen in your night dreams, but you're not affected. Right?
Yeah.
It's the same consciousness that right now perceiving this is the same consciousness that can perceive a snowstorm, or it can perceive,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, car accident.
Mm-hmm. And the recognition of what you're saying and the recognition of this source, we'll call it, being, is totally available. I mean, it's the baseline, regardless of what those things may be.
Absolutely. Because right now, if you look at your experience right now, which means you contemplate awareness, not the content of it, not the image, but awareness itself. It's right there. You don't need to go anywhere to know that I am, or to know that I am aware.
Right.
But you go from I am to, of course, I am aware, to I am awareness. Yes? I am. I am aware. I am aware that I'm aware. I am awareness. Aware that I'm awareness. I'm awareness, self-aware. Yes? It's always there. And it's not something that is, you say, it's inside this body. That's just that's a thought.
Yeah.
But it's not based on any truth, on any reality, because we never experienced consciousness inside a body. We may have the belief that consciousness is inside the body. But our experience is a body, for example, this hand as a perception appears within consciousness. I don't appear. Consciousness doesn't appear inside this hand. Right?
Yes.
If you look at your hand.
Yes.
This perception is appearing within you, within consciousness.
Right.
Yes.
It's something that just occurs to me, things like, TED Talks, for example, where somebody has an interesting theory.
Yes.
Or a religion, Catholic religion or whatever. It's like this huge thing, and it has a sense of some validity just because of what a huge thing it seems to be. And yet it's just some fixation. It's just occurring to me that it's somebody believes, oh, I'll find consciousness through studying the brain. And then they can spend decades and get 3 PhDs in the pursuit of finding consciousness in the brain.
Yes.
And all it means is it's a brain idea. I mean, it's an identification with limitation.
Yes. Right. Because if you ask yourself, what is it that's going to find consciousness within the brain?
Yes.
What is it? You find that way. Consciousness is finding consciousness inside the brain. It makes no sense. What is it that's going to find that?
Right. And so then the perfect relationship, or the little litany of things that become major issues in a life, all can settle out. think.
Yes, the settling comes from the understanding that you are not divided. You're not a segmented form. You're not a man or a woman having experiences. You are consciousness. And experiences appear within the spaciousness of consciousness, out of consciousness, and dissolve in consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And consciousness is undisturbed. So it's a key understanding, because we feel disturbed. We experience disturbances
Mm-hmm.
that are not unnecessary. Unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
These
Yes.
disturbances are unnecessary because consciousness is never disturbed, and we are that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The thought that says something is happening to me is not an evidence
Mm.
that something is happening to you.
Mm-hmm.
The thought that says something is happening to me
Mm-hmm.
is an evidence that awareness is
Yes.
awareing a thought,
Yes.
that awareness is appearing as a thought.
Right. It may be a very clever thought.
Yeah,
Saying that something's happening to me is just
awareness is clever.
Awareness is clever.
It can be very clever. Yes. Where else do you think cleverness comes from?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean.
What do you think
Mhm.
composes the galactic dance?
Yeah.
Or the breath? Or the breath? Yes.
Well, that was great. That was great.
Yes. Okay. And Marianne, I'll come to you in just a minute. There is a question that Rhonda writes. What feels disturbed? Yes, good question. Is it just thoughts and sensations? Yes, good question, Rhonda. You have to look for yourself. So go right now to feeling disturbed. Try to imagine, try to recollect. Maybe we can all do it together. Try to recollect somebody behaving in a certain way towards you that disturbed you. Okay, just try to remember that. Try to sort of, if you can, evoke that experience. Just for it, let it go in a minute, just as a little experiment. And ask yourself, what's going on right now? I'm feeling disturbed. Of course, the first thing that comes to mind, God, they really upset me. I'm feeling disturbed. And you're feeling in your belly or your chest or your neck or your shoulders or maybe throughout your whole body, you're feeling this energetic. Okay? And ask yourself the question, is whatever is perceiving this thought, the thought that says, he really acted inappropriately towards me. Ask yourself the question, is whatever perceives that thought, whatever is perceiving that thought, make believe that it's happening now, sort of. So you're looking at the thought right now. Is whatever is perceiving the thought right now, is that disturbed? The thought says, I'm disturbed. The thought says, I am disturbed. He or she acted improperly towards me. You perceive this thought. You must perceive the thought, because if you were not perceiving the thought, you would be just sitting, watching, looking out the window, watching the crows, watching the squirrels, watching the trees. So you are perceiving this thought. Is whatever is perceiving the thought, is that disturbed? Of course not. You can turn your attention to this energetic field in the body. Your face is red and you feel heat, maybe in your, whatever, just maybe exaggerating. Something is perceiving this bodily sensation. Because if nothing was perceiving this bodily sensation wouldn't even be there. So you ask yourself the question, is whatever is perceiving right now this bodily sensation, is that disturbed? And you may find that, of course not. It could be that we are not habituated to just look from a different perspective than the perspective of what thought is saying or what the body feeling is saying. Because there is another perspective, which is that of awareness. And awareness is your primary experience. Right now, you're hearing these words via awareness. It is awareness that is hearing these words. When you close your eyes, awareness is still there. You open your eyes, awareness is still there. The image changes. But awareness does not change. Yes? So your question, what feels disturbed, you could say that consciousness perceives the thought, perceives the bodily sensation, but it doesn't get disturbed. There are thoughts and sensations, yes, thoughts and sensations that appear. But thoughts and sensations, they don't feel anything. They just appear. So your question is, what is it that feels disturbed? Nothing. Nothing feels disturbed. It's a thought that says, oh, I feel disturbed. But the thought isn't feeling anything. If a thought does not feel, yes? A thought does not feel. One moment. Okay. So it's a story. Feeling disturbed is a story. And of course, I mean, if somebody tells you, hey, you know, there is nobody that's feeling disturbed, you will laugh at them. So I'm not going to tell you is no one is feeling disturbed, but step by step we look at it and we realize that there is a story about somebody feeling disturbed. Meaning thoughts. There are thoughts that contain a me, she did this to me, he did that to me, blah, blah, blah. And so we're feeling disturbed. You say, oh, I'm feeling disturbed. But it's just thoughts. The thoughts don't feel anything. In awareness, the eye that perceives, that it's just a mirror. That imagine there is a mirror that perceives reflections. The reflections arise out of itself. The mirror reflects all sorts of image impressions, but it's not affected by the images that it reflects. Except in this case of consciousness is creating these images. So it's important not to say like a parrot, oh, there is nobody that get disturbed, you know, Advaita is no one. No, that's neo-Advaita. You have to come to an understanding that there is someone, but this someone is not a person, it's not a body-mind. It's universal consciousness, borderless, aware presence. Yes? Okay, there's a question, I think. Marianne. Okay, so Marianne. So let's see. So Marianne, you're right. How come I can recognize myself as awareness or consciousness, but fail to feel the bliss or love? Yes, that's a very good question. Very good question. It has to sink in, Marianne. You know, let's say that for many years you believed there was a thief hiding outside of your door. And for many years you would not go out of the house because you were very scared that they may mug you. They might mug you. And then somehow somebody turns the lights on outside and you see that it's a bush. It was a bush that a shadow of which looked like somebody was hiding. And you laugh. You realize, oh my goodness, all this time I was mistaken. But even though you may have realized that, the apprehension that you had been feeling for all these years doesn't dissolve right away. There remains traces that will take some time to dissolve. Also, there are different levels of recognition that I am consciousness awareness. There is a recognition that I am consciousness awareness, but it's still personal. That I, this person, am awareness. I, Magdi, am awareness. I, Marianne, am awareness. Mm-hmm. Just close this. Okay. So there may still be a personal impression. So the first understanding is I am not a mortal body mind. I am not the mind. I am not the thoughts. I am not the sensations. I am the awareness that is aware of these perceptions, of these sensations, of these mentations. But there is still a sense of separation because I still have not completely merged. There hasn't been a complete merging. There's still a personal sense of consciousness. So you need to contemplate, which is the next phase of your contemplation. What is the nature of this awareness? What is the nature of this consciousness? Now that I know that I am consciousness, that the reality of my experience is consciousness, I need to explore this awareness, this consciousness. You contemplate that it's formless, shapeless, borderless, genderless, has no location, is non-local. There's no density, no direction. No objectives. Nothing lacking to it. It's peace. It's causeless happiness. It's the light of being. And also you need to contemplate that consciousness does not depend on anything. It's self-fulfilled. It does not need bodies, minds, worlds. It does not depend on the world, body, mind. It is a whole within itself. And that it is the one reality. There are not two realities. And that all what appears out of itself. Is substance, is the substance of whatever appears is consciousness itself. It's the reality of all what appears is consciousness itself. The soul and heart of whatever appears is consciousness itself. It arises out of consciousness, dissolves in, not out really, there isn't an out, but it sort of arises within consciousness and dissolves within consciousness. So consciousness is the conceiver, the creator, the witnesser, and the dissolver of all mentations, all world, body, mind impressions. And that I am that I, the I, refers to the universal self, the same I that perceives through infinite body minds. One consciousness, universal self. That is the path to Ananda, to the bliss of the self. To have arrived to the understanding that I am consciousness awareness is an important halfway point in your journey. Okay, Marianne. Ananda, you're right. Non-enlightenment is like thinking the bush outside is a mugger, so enlightenment is really no big deal. You could say that, but enlightenment and non-enlightenment, our true nature is neither enlightened nor non-enlightened.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There isn't such a, I was going to say duality, let's say, since there isn't such a thing within our true nature. So thinking about enlightenment and non-enlightenment gives a certain sense of veridity. It's as if it maintains it. Huh?
Reinforces the dilemma.
Yes, correct. Yes, right. Reinforces this dichotomy, and it sort of alludes to enlightened persons and non-enlightened persons,
Mm-hmm.
because the self is. So what is it that would get enlightened, non-enlightened?
Mm-hmm.
Now, by enlightenment, when I mention the word enlightenment, or when I reference enlightenment, I speak of a glimpse into the eternity of the self, the glory of the self, the borderlessness, the vastness, the universality of the self. But that glimpse is not personal. That's very important. It's not personal. It's the self that shines onto itself. But afterwards, the mind comes in and says, wow, I had such a far out experience.
Yes.
That was great. It was so great. It lasted for like, I think it lasted for 15 minutes. And I was just like, and after that, I was like float. I was like flying for the next week. And then I don't know what happened. Then life caught up with me. Life caught up with me. The mind comes and says, makes these stories about. And
it's embarrassing. I've been talking about a particular experience that I had in 1973.
You see, right, okay.
50 years,
right,
40 years.
Right. So many years after that, the mind is chasing this experience. We're connecting. So we share it with our friends, and we are humble. We don't say anything, and then when we're really pressured, we say, "Yeah, I got enlightened in 1968 or whatever." Yeah. In fact,
it's been downhill since then.
Right. But there is hope. There's hope because I am practicing the Malakamo mantra, whatever. Okay. I don't mean to. It's for people who are doing mantra or whatever other practices. You follow your heart. That's what matters. So enlightenment is just the self revealing itself to itself, and then the mind comes back in and says, "Oh, me, great me." Yes. And then we suffer for another 20 years or whatever. But I mean, we're also, we know the revelation of the self, the enlightenment can't be forgotten. There is like a deep, it's like you're dreaming that something is happening to you, and somehow in your dream somebody whispers to you, "Hey, you're okay, you're just in bed, and I'm your mother and I love you, but and you say, whoa, oh yeah," and then you go back to your dream, but something happened in your dream that sort of it won't be forgotten. It just It may lay dormant for, hopefully for not too long, but it will arise. It will call you back, because there is so much happiness, so much freedom and happiness and joy that you experience. That meaning a complete absence of the me. That's really the joy. When we have a tremendous joy, it's depends how much the me was absent.
Right.
The freedom, the freedom that we experience, it can't be measured in a great joy. And then the mind isn't there. There isn't like a measurement.
And I like that you refer to Sahaja Samadhi, because it seems like, of all terms that I know of, that's the one that kind of deals with this whole issue of, okay, I'm not having a particular experience. I'm not snorkeling in Hawaii and whatever, but it's still the same peace and resolution, so to speak. Something like that.
Yeah. Yes, Sahaja Samadhi is being established in causeless and undisturbed freedom, peace, and happiness that has no reason, no beginning, no end.
And I guess it really implies recognizing the appearance as the expression of oneself, as consciousness. I mean, it seems like it must.
Yes, you recognize everything as the self. I am the self. The self recognizes itself as itself. Everything refers to I. All is the self. I am the self. So sometimes I write, I am the self, but it's important not to misunderstand. I'm not talking about a person.
Right.
I'm talking about I, the self. I'm the self. I am the self. I refers to the self. When we say I, we're referring to the self, but we confuse it with a man or a woman. We're confusing the I with a person, with a limited person, with a particular body mind.
When that happens, we call it teacheritis or guruitis. Guruitis.
I'm not familiar with that. Yes.
Like an inflammation of the ego.
Yes.
It's special.
Oh, okay. Yes. When I refers to me, I am the self. I as the person itself. No. Yes, that's.
Yeah. In your writing, that never comes across that way. It never has. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Oh, this is just beautiful. Thank you. And my friend Krishna is here. He said Krishna doesn't exist. Well,
hello, Krishna.
He's more the real Krishna than the fellow called Krishna. He's really
I could have used any name, but yes.
Yeah, I know.
Megdi,
Totally.
or yes, of course.
I wanted him to say hi, but he's shy. Where is he? He says, "I'll meet him sometime in person." He says.
We say hi at the heart. We're always saying hi. We're never apart.
Yeah. But my friend Krishna and I have gone back for a long ways. He introduced me to John Klein and Ramesh Balsekar, things like that. And, so he's watching from the back of the room, and he goes, after I talk with you, he goes, yes.
Yes.
It's really beautiful to have this kind of community. Friendship. He's been staying with me a little while, like a true ashram in that sense.
Very lovely, very lovely. Jean Klein, I never met Jean Klein, but I had an immediate recognition and deep love for him from the distance. And I was very fortunate to meet Francis Lucille and Rupert Spiral. They were both very influential, and of course Francis, I consider him to be my very dear friend and teacher. guide.
Yeah, and it's it's all coming from the same place, for sure. It is the same place.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Beautiful. Well,
thanks so much.
hello to Krishna. So Maria, hello Maria. Maria, you're right. This is a question about patterns in a relationship. Okay, so what is the question about? Just a question about the patterns in a relationship? You know, patterns, it's like a repetitive. You know, in a relationship, it's very beautiful when there is a freshness. You know, when you meet each other without a history, you say, I get hooked, I love to know how to break through the patterns in a relationship. Well, first of all, just to understand what patterns are, so we meet each other with our stories. You know, we have a story about ourselves, we have a story about others. We cannot have a story about another without having a story about ourselves. Because when we speak of another, we've separated ourselves from the other. So when we say the other, we already have a me and a him, me and a her. You follow?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So as soon as there is another, before even the other arises, you have separated yourself out of the wholeness of being. You've reduced the wholeness of being. You've reduced your wholeness, your indivisibility. You've reduced it to a divisible person. You've divided it into a me and therefore the other or others. And now there is a relationship between a me and others. Me being an incomplete, a reduction of my wholeness, and the others being a reduction of that same wholeness. I've reduced my wholeness into parts. And the key thing is I've done it unknowingly. So you need to get to be knowing, to know that that is what you are doing. You've divided yourself into me, Maria, and others, you name them. And then the story goes on. As soon as you become knowing that this division is out of your own doing, you come back to your wholeness. Because you realize that this division is a fiction. It's a fictitious division. Because you cannot divide the wholeness. You cannot divide the indivisible. You have to return to your wholeness. So the way to become free of the patterns in relationship is to realize your wholeness. And as you realize your wholeness, you realize the wholeness of everything. Because there are not two wholenesses. There's only one wholeness. And everything and everybody is embraced in that wholeness. It's a non-judgmental wholeness. It's complete, like droplets of water in the ocean. They're indivisible. So you cannot separate a droplet of water from another droplet of water. It's only mentation that says, oh, that's droplet A and that's droplet B. Yes? In the moment the little I gets triggered, do I pause and realize my wholeness? When the little I, the me, gets triggered, Maria, you will experience unhappiness. You need to become sensitive to the unhappiness. We are so tolerant of unhappiness. We need to become more intolerant of unhappiness. Do not tolerate unhappiness. What for? You have to say no to unhappiness. And when you say no to unhappiness, you're saying no to the me story and him story. Oh, he did this to me. Oh, why did he do this to me? Why did she do this to me? I was such a good person and treated them so good, blah, blah, blah. You have to say no to that's unhappy. Because as soon as there is a bad other, there is a bad me. Because when I'm better than the other, that's bad. See? You cannot have a bad other without a bad me. And that's unhappy. So when you become sensitive to the unhappiness, Maria, you realize, uh-oh, there I go again. Me and him. I don't want to be still. Our true nature is stillness, is peace. The mind says, oh, move away from the peace. Why? Because that is how the mind maintains itself. It says, move away from the peace. Let's find out why she did this. Why did, you know, it whispers in your ear, you were really good, you were a good girl, and look what she was, she didn't recognize how great you were. And you go, yeah, yes, oh my God, yeah, she's really bad. After all what I did for her, that's how she treats me? See, that's how the mind tells you, okay, move away from the peace. Come to the mind, come to the spinning story. You see, so your understanding increases. When you are contemplating yourself, how the mind is and what you are, your understanding increases. You go, aha, I see. So you have to get to the aha, I see. And not just, oh yeah, why did she do this to me? It gets tight in the chest and it's obvious I am unhappy. I withdraw and just want to pout and I feel trapped. No! When pouting is unhappy, why do you want to pile unhappiness on top of unhappiness? When you are unhappy, instead of pouting, just simply be still. Experience it. Because when you're experiencing the unhappiness, you are coming from your stillness. When you're pouting, you're trying to avoid the unhappiness by going into another feeling and another emotion. To be still. Be still. Allow it to be. It will not harm you. It does not harm you. You will have evidence from your own experience that it's not harming you. It's just appearing in the space. Whatever appears in the space doesn't affect it. Whatever appears in the openness doesn't touch the openness. You are this openness, Maria. The openness that right now perceives this perception. Yes? So you perceive an emotion. You perceive a certain behavior. You perceive a certain thought patterns, what she did to me, what he did to me. But you don't buy it. You just perceive it. When you perceive from your stillness. So contemplate perceiving from the stillness. You follow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nothing ever happens to you.
Mm-hmm.
Things may happen at the body-mind level, but you are not the body-mind level, you are that. The knowingness, the beingness, the awareness, the consciousness that perceives all perceptions effortlessly, without being disturbed.
Yeah, I know that in my head, but in the moment when I'm gripped.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, at the moment that it arises and it just grabs you, there isn't much to do. It's like you are on the boat. Okay, you just you're gonna feel the turbulence of the emotion. So at that moment, there is not much to do. Yes, because it has gone from 0 to 80%. It's gone up to a certain intensity that there isn't much you can do about. But there is a contemplation that comes before and after. Okay? There is a contemplation. Now You won't come from right away from being wrapped up in the emotion to being the still witness. It may take a few iterations, but that is the direction. The direction is to contemplate that nothing happens to you, that you are the open, empty space of awareness. That's the contemplation. And nothing happens to that, what I truly am. To visit that over and over so that it can sink in. And when it has sunk enough, when there is somebody or something that triggers you, it will not be the same roller coaster or snowball effect. It will have maybe a little thing to it, but it won't have the same intensity. And in time,
Yes, I hear.
you will realize that what used to really upset you before, now you don't even notice it. It's very interesting how it changes. Yes?
Yes.
So, yes.
Yes, I have noticed that.
Yes. Yes. So, okay, I mean, what's the big deal? Sometimes we get wrapped up in our emotions. Okay, big deal. Yeah. You can let it go. Yeah, you say, okay, fine, I did. So what? You know, nobody's trying to be a saint. We know at the body-mind level, it is what it is.
Yes.
Right, so big deal. You don't need to carry it. You don't need to come back and judge yourself and be so strict and difficult with yourself because you messed up. Big deal. So what? You forget and you forgive yourself, and hopefully others will forget and forgive you. Maybe yes, maybe no. But it's not about that. It's about not holding on to anything, but realizing that it's impossible for the self, what I truly am, to hold on to anything, because it's the wholeness of being. Nothing is lacking to that is not form. You are the formless self. Nothing is lacking. The entire conversation about lacking is at a different dimension than what we are. What we truly are is a different realm than needing this and wanting that and etc. You have to come to the awareness. It's a way of speaking, saying, come to the awareness, you are that. See, I use relative language. Turn your attention to that nothing touches it. And even if whatever emotion you went to the other week or yesterday or whatever, where is it right now? Nowhere. A thought may appear. So a thought is appearing. A thought may even appear saying, oh my God, what did they think of me yesterday? That's just a thought appearing. I don't hold on to it. Why hold on to any thought? Actually, you cannot hold on to the thought. It just appears and disappears. Right?
Yes.
So, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. We judge ourselves too much. And it's no, I mean, part of judging ourselves, we judge others, because it's the same thing. When we separate ourselves, we separate others, we judge others. If we're judging ourselves, it's unhappy. What good is there in that?
None.
When there is zero good in something, it makes sense to give it up. It makes sense, logically, it makes sense.
Right.
So give it up.
except for those bad habits, those patterns that just have a way of just clutching onto you.
Well, but those patterns arise, and you give them up again. You give it up. So you give it up again. You don't need to have 100% success in one time. What for? Why are you know you know what I mean? It's like you're being too severe with yourself. Just you release them again, right? Oh, and if you don't, well, big deal. That didn't hurt anyone. Right.
Yes.
Big deal. Big deal. So you think anybody is a saint? Forget it. Nobody is a saint. What I think Jesus said, throw a stone at me if you're not a sinner, and nobody could throw a stone at him, or something like that, right? Wasn't there like a stone? Throw a stone at me. Everybody said, oh. Nobody could throw a stone because they all knew that they, right? So, right. So you can let it go in the moment. You don't need to have a report, a progress report. That will haunt you. Oh my God, how am I doing? Oh, no progress report. It's just in the moment.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and also there is a residue. So, yeah, there may be some residue at the feeling level, the body level, and the body has more of a memory than thoughts in the mind. The body remembers a little bit more. Like if you bump your knee, you will feel it even an hour or 2 hours later. You may still feel something, a soreness. Yes. So the body has more of a memory. It's normal. That's how body. So that's how that manifestation is. You can't expect it to be different than what it is, right? But you don't define yourself by it. So you don't define yourself by your feelings, by the body sensations. You remain the witness, the free witness, the empty, aware witness, spacious witness of bodily sensations. And as you are the witness of the body, the sensations, you are moving into your vastness. It's a way of speaking. You're really not moving at all, but you're inviting your vastness. And as you come to the vastness, then the sensation expands and relaxes in your vastness. You follow? So you relax at the body. There is a different type of work where you sort of, it's different from the contemplation of your thoughts and your identification. It's noticing the gross and subtle tightnesses in the body, and sort of like relaxing them, noticing them, and just sort of relaxing them. In the noticing, there is a relaxation already.
Right. And one doesn't need to go into understanding the content or the whys of the tightness or anything like that.
No, you don't. You don't need to understand.
Yes.
Just when you go to bed and lie down and just you know what do you do with your mind? It dissolves. It doesn't try to understand. If you try to understand, you cannot sleep. Right?
Right. Yes.
Because you're right. You try to understand.
Right.
You don't need to understand. That's a great gift, to understand that you don't need to understand. Understanding that I don't need to understand. We should title a chapter like that. Understanding that I don't need to understand.
So this is very different from, say, in psychology, where you know, you talk about it and you're trying to understand where that comes from, and
Right.
on, because that's really working on the body mind
Yes.
level, right?
Yes,
It's
it's a
really
different, yeah. It's a,
Uh-huh.
psychoanalysis and psychological counseling usually is dealing with a particular crisis that the body mind is going through, and they need to sort of get to a calmer, a better place vis-a-vis this particular situation. You follow? It's not the Advaitic path. It's not they need to have a certain looking into that particular. Of course, it's very helpful when there is a psychoanalyst who also has a non-dual understanding, because then that they can work on both levels. They can work at the psychological level and also at the level of consciousness. But yes, there are different. So in this gathering, most of the sharing is the Advaitic understanding, the non-dual understanding, that is basically talking about happiness, about the freedom and the bliss of the self, our true nature. Okay, well, thank you very much for your lovely company and your friendship and your love. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Magdi.
Okay, Nanda. Okay, Maria. Okay, everybody.
Thank you, Magdi.
Okay.